Hey everyone, my name is Eragon. I'm a challenger top laner and a caster for the LEC, and I've co-streamed every single game this summer split in the LPL first round robin. Here's my tier list going forward. So I'm going to start at the top. I particularly love BLG the most. I love On. I'm the biggest On fanboy in the world, and his recent Camille performance, especially with the Kalista bailout, I think the way they were using that was super great. I think the bot lane is absolutely crazy. They've had good meta draft reads, and you know, I don't really need to go on. I'm actually not going to have that big of explanations for BLG and TES because I think it's very obvious why they're here. Again, they're self-explanatory with TES. I think there's some off-meta reads, like Mordekaiser into Skarner. I'm really not a big fan of this. I think it's just not a great counter pick. I'm a big Mord hater. But 369 is my GOAT top laner in the world. I think 369 has been my favorite top lane of all time for the longest time, and I think the placement in general of TES needs no explanation either. So let's get into the meat of it. I think A tier is an interesting one. Let's put JDG in A tier. So, JDG would have been lower if I didn't see their last series versus FPX. I think Ruler in particular on Ashe was phenomenal. I don't think this guy can miss an arrow if you did an arrow checker, like a tracker. I mean, I think he landed every single one. They have really solid team fighting with single target compositions. Ashe engage into Vi, Rumble, Ahri layer on. Right, these sort of compositions I think were absolutely fantastic. Sheer played last series as well, and I think he looks really, really good. His stats are phenomenal. I don't know why he doesn't get more game time. I think Sheer looks really, really good. I couldn't point out many things that he did wrong, if at all. So yeah, his Rumble was great, and their ability to close out games was convincing too. Yeah, I think they would have been lower, but that last series, solid A tier. And the plot twist here is the fact that they are the only A tier team in my eyes. I think it goes S, A, and it's just 3 teams. And then you have a little bit of a drop off. And the next team on my list for B tier is, where are they at? Weibo. So, I do not like the top side. I'm going to start with the negatives. I do not like the top side in Breathe and Tarzan. I think I've historically not been a big fan of Breathe, even when he was getting hyped up. I don't know if it was a year ago or what have you. And Tarzan recently has been a bit hit or miss in my eyes. I think a lot of the community's eyes as well. However, I do think Crisp is really great. I think especially in the last series, Crisp was really, really good on the Leona pick in the series versus AL where they picked up a win. And overall, I think I'd be doing a disservice not putting them above AL, who I think is top 5 as well, and above some other teams. So Weibo Gaming, go here because they beat out on AL, even though I think AL, I think you can interchange them still despite losing the series. I think AL had an off day personally. Maybe that's cope though. And that introduces AL next. So AL, I think one of the sleeper teams coming into the split, a lot of people didn't really pay attention to them, but then you had a look at the roster. I think what happened was people didn't really pay attention because AL's are never normally that great, but then they started winning games and people started looking at the roster and they were like, whoa. The roster's really good. I've always been an Ale fan. I think Ale's phenomenal. Shanks looks like one of the best mid laners in the LPL. I think he's also looking really, really good. Kale was a great pickup too. From, I believe, the LCK Challengers or LCK. Very solid team, despite dropping a series to Weibo. I think on another day they could have beaten out on Weibo. And yeah, because Ali's there, I really want to put this. Ali and Shanks, I'm on the Ali and Shanks train. I'm putting Ali ahead of Weibo despite losing the series. I'm trying not to be a results-based Andy, and you shouldn't be either. I think an off day can matter here. So I'm putting them in. Now, for my controversial pick. Okay, IG are going in B tier. Not quite top 5, even though I really want them to. I just can't put them above Weibo. It doesn't make any sense. But IG, they were 0-3-0, and this is where the results-based Andys come in, and they don't actually watch the games, and they say, you know what, this team sucks. They look at last splits performances on rookies like Vampire, you know, and what have you, and Gilfs, how he's a rookie as well, but you don't see the heart that this team has. Vampire has been making such really solid plays, engages, insane Nautilus hooks, rel engages, finding game-winning moments on his own. He had the Snake and some other AD carry that was absolutely awful as well before that. Now, Arn and Vampire look absolutely phenomenal, and they just reverse-sweeped NIP. Despite being 1-3, I've been really impressed by the games. Don't be a results-based Andy. Vampire is a fantastic rookie, fresh off a solo queue. I think their pain points, though, are mid and jungle. Now, Gilfs has really good games, like on the Graves, but he can be really, really bad. He can go 0-10, just very easily. And Nenny, I think, is bad pretty much across the board. He'll either go even or lose really hard. Nenny, for those who don't know, was a former top laner, also picked to mid, and his best game looked like it was actually on the Renekton. So, yeah, I think mid's a pain point, and it's going to be rough winning games with Nenny as their mid laner, and I know people don't like this, me saying this, I'm just being honest. I think it's all about bot lane, and I think this team can grow. If Nenny can improve, if Gilfs can keep improving the way he played, Graves was great. I think this team has lifetime potential, and they're my favorite team in the league right now to watch. So keep your eyes on them. They might not even do that well, but they are fantastic. So, last point I'll make, because YSKM is a very big question mark for people. The reason why I like Zuyan over YSKM is because Zuyan makes a lot more sense on the roster. When you think about the team dynamic, they play very hard for bot side. When you introduce YSKM to a team with Arn and Vampire, you're dragging resources to two sides of the map because you have your crazy picks like Aurelia and Camille and what have you for YSKM top side, but you don't want that when you play full for bot side with a Draven, one trick, and loads of these volatile bot sides where Vampire can win lane really hard. So I'd rather have the weak side tank player in Zuyan with Vampire and Arn down bot side, and that's why I like this team, because the team makes sense and they have potential. Next, NIP. I think people are really disappointed in NIP, and I am too, considering their star power. And I know this looks crazy to put IG above them, but that's what I genuinely think. I'm a huge Shanji fanboy. You know, one of my favorite top laners outside of 369. I think Shanji's probably my next favorite. I'll lay Bin after that. It's their best player, but I think the whole team just isn't doing that great right now. Losing against IG is a massive fraud check moment in my books. The fact that they got beaten them. I don't know, it's absolutely mental. And Rookie is not doing too hot as well in my opinion, but maybe I'm being a bit like recency bias, you know. It's just I've been very disappointed by NIP. Very, very disappointed. So, okay, C tier. There's a huge drop-off now, so I want to make it clear that there's a big drop-off from B to C. I think these teams are the best in the league. So next up is LNG, my god. LNG, how are they performing this badly? And as we go worse and worse teams, I'm going to make shorter and shorter explanations because these teams just aren't that interesting and they're just usually just shit, right? Unfortunately. How are they performing this badly? Right, that is the big question. I think Scout's really not doing that well. Outside of a game in the first series, like a couple games in the first series. I don't know what's happening. Big fraud check. He just picked Malzahar into LeBlanc today. Their drafts, I think, are just absolute garbage. Karthus, Malzahar, Senna in a draft just blew my mind. In trying to counter the blind pick LeBlanc, I think it's just unreal what I'm seeing from this team. They should have lost today against RA. They got huge deficits where they only came back because I think the veterancy of the team finding little angles. You always see it. It's like how G2's winning versus GX like the day before that. Absolutely mental. I don't know how LNG are doing this badly considering the names, and I think I want to put them lower, honestly, but I just don't know if I can. So, coming back mid-game is the only way they win. I hate this team. WE, honestly, fuck it. It's Fofo versus the world, and I like Fofo more than I like the entirety of LNG. I was going to put them below LNG, but dude, Fofo versus the world, I really like Fofo. I think this guy's really good, and I hope next time he gets on a better team. And Fofo's really, really good. But I can't put them higher because I just don't think the teams are as good as the ones above. And I think these two teams are pretty similar. Just Fofo, I think, is really, really good. So, next up. Who is next up? RA. Realistically, I think they should have come out of top 2 in their group. I think if their mid-game was better, which is a really big problem and a pain point that they do have, if their mid-game is better, they should have beaten LNG. But players like Asum on their team, I think is really struggling in the mid-game with getting picked. I think Xiaoshu, I feel bad for him. I think Xiaoshu on this roster, I feel a little bit bad. He has some sus mid-game moments as well. And I think this team does have the potential to rise up to the top of C or low B if they fix their mid-game issues, because their early game is good. But they're really frustrating to watch because they will just randomly get picked. Asum in the mid lane gets picked at 20 minutes, they get Baron. Enemy team gets Baron, LNG beat them. It's super frustrating, but it's just veterancy, I think. Lack of it and a lack of experience, maybe. Although I'm not too familiar with the depth of the history on the teams. That's what it looks like, at least. Really, really painful to watch them lose the games this morning into LNG. And yeah, RA go here. Potential, though. Potential. And FPX is next. I think this team could go lower, to be honest. I mean, it's very simple, right? Milky Way does well. Team good. Milky Way does bad. Team bad. Problem is Milky Way's having a bit of a shaky split. The first series of the split, I didn't like. Third series, I think I didn't like. I think it's been a little bit hit or miss. So, just not a fan. I don't like the way this team functions. I don't like these kind of 1v9er teams. Fofo sure is the same thing, but that's why they're both in C tier. I don't like it. I don't like these teams. And I've not been impressed by FPX, especially with the good Milky Way. A little bit underwhelming. Last one, OMG, in C tier. I don't think they're horrendous, and I think you could probably put FPX behind them. And I think their AD carry, Starry, has potential. I kind of liked what I saw from Starry. Some alright early games, you know. I think they played against top esports. I think I'm going to put them here. Maybe even above Rare Atom. But like these are kind of interchangeable, right? And that's why I see this is quite hard. I don't think they deserve a D tier rating despite being 0-3. And this is where you have to not be a results-based answer. You have to recognize that you're evaluating based on gameplay and not because they're different groups, right? Everyone's playing against different teams, so it's hard. But despite being 0-3, I think they're all right. But yeah, maybe this is cope. Regardless, just realize that they're interchangeable. And yeah, they don't deserve a D tier rating. They're all right. They're okay. Okay, D tier, Ultra Prime. Man. Dude, I just don't like the players on this roster. I think Qingtian is just ew. I'm not a fan of Hacker and Doggo. I think the eye test is just really bad. Watching these players, I remember Qingtian versus Ale getting absolutely smoked by his Rumble. The spacing versus his Darius was absolutely crazy. Qingtian's TF, dude, I think Qingtian is just horrendous. I don't like the individual players, and yeah, it was just a slaughter in a lot of the games. So that's why Ultra Prime's here. Short, let's go rapid. EDG, maybe EDG, I'm selling them short. Maybe EDG could be up here, but I'm not a fan of them. Their win against TT it was clean, but their against TT, and in my opinion, you know, I'm just not convinced. But again, EDG, they're one of the teams that I don't have the best memory on. I just remember being unconvinced by the games, and the only they won cleanly against TT, who in my opinion are the worst team in the league. Now, why is that? Well, they're absolutely dreadful. I think they have terrible meta reads. They have terrible priorities in drafts. I don't like what they prioritize. They have terrible macro with an inability to cross map. They cannot commit to a play. They cannot use grubs. They can't do anything. I hate this team. I think this team's really bad. I think UCal's horrendous. I mean, if you watch that game, there was an Ignite PTA Tristana game where he had to recall like 3 times before 4 minutes. Without TP, I mean, he fell so far behind. He was just so useless. I do not like the players on this team. I think this roster's really, really bad. So that's my worst team to split. And then the question mark here is just, I couldn't co-stream one day, and then I've rewatched, but I didn't want to watch RNG LGD games. So, apologies for that. I just don't want to. I'm sorry. It's how it is. I just don't want to. I think these teams are probably pretty bad, but you can place them yourself if you're that passionate about it. These are the matters, and that's my tier list for the first round robin of the LPL. So I hope that was helpful. I co-stream every single day over on my Twitch channel, as well as play a little bit of solo queue, and I try not to miss a single day of the LPL. On my YouTube channel as well, I upload condensed highlights of the series that I think are bangers, as well as more content. Check out my Clips channel as well for some spicy content too. So thanks guys, and see you later.